Last night we showed you some of the issues with the medical marijuana law passed in Maine in 2009. Folks at the Department of Health and Human Services aren't the only ones butting heads with caregivers and patients.
Rob Poindexter joins us now from our Waterville Bureau with that part of the story. Rob?
Thanks, John. Thanks, Catherine. Well, up until 2 years ago, when it came to marijuana, the job of the Maine Drug Enforcement Agency was pretty cut and dry. But now, it seems as though patients and caregivers are also feeling the effects of this learning process.
You know, the old adage, you're only paranoid when there's not someone watching you. Well, they were watching us for 6 months.
According to a court affidavit, the Maine Drug Enforcement Agency in October 2010, acting on anonymous tips and after months of surveillance, conducted a surprise raid on John Stewart's home. The agents say they didn't know at the time Stewart was a medical marijuana caregiver. Stewart also sells vegetables, eggs, and has a fish farm.
We have a highway sign that clearly states we're a business. And yet, instead of treating me like a businessman and politely asking me some questions, they put my family under surveillance, served a search warrant, had numerous officers through my home, through my daughter's dresser drawers. They handcuffed me and questioned me for an hour because I grew a plant that I made no secret of.
Roy McKinney is the director of the Maine Drug Enforcement Agency.
Or was the DEA not aware that he was a caregiver at the time?
All the facts known to law enforcement at the time would have been in the affidavit at that time. And we're speaking to, you have to remember, we're speaking to October 2010. There was no registry. Caregivers were not required to register with the state at that time. The system had not been in place.
Stewart's wife, Cynthia Rosen, says the MDEA set up a potentially deadly encounter.
Would they have shot him? That part bothers me. He could grab a gun and go out back to go see why someone's on our property. What's our dog barking at? So they set up a potentially lethal situation? Based on what? An alleged anonymous letter?
I think the important thing is that any homeowner who believes that there's someone on their property, they need to call the police, not investigate such incidents by themselves.
Stewart says the MDEA regional office also told him he could be charged with a federal crime for having his gun in his greenhouse.
The Constitution of the State of Maine, Article 1, Section 16, the right of the people to bear arms shall never be questioned. It's pretty clear. I should be able to defend my greenhouse.
McKinney says as long as the marijuana is legal and the person is allowed by law to have a gun, they're not breaking the law.
The law is looking at that as now exempted conduct. Therefore, the weapon is not subject to seizure.
Rosen and Stewart filed a formal complaint and have tried filing trespassing and theft charges against the MDEA agents.
So I'm waiting. I'm being very patient, and I'm not exactly certain what I'm waiting for at this point, except to make sure I have all my ducks in a row, because I'm not taking this lying down. They spied on my family for 6.5 months.
McKinney says in the future, the state registry system will help authorities.
From a law enforcement perspective, law enforcement doesn't want to be spending time on issues that it does not need to spend time on. If it is not criminal conduct, we would rather know that sooner rather than later.
Stewart says he remains cautious.
Yes, I believe that they treat us as criminals. I believe they are set in their dogma that we are a danger to the community. And we're not.
Now, the questions also come up about whether or not Maine's medical marijuana law actually violates federal law. I spoke to the Attorney General's office yesterday, and they said that they are looking into that. Of course, we'll keep you posted on any new developments there. If you want to see this story again, you can log on to wabi.tv and click on features. John, Catherine?
All right, Rob Poindexter tonight from our Central Maine Bureau. Thank you for that investigation.